Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening's live stream. We have a special guest later on, someone who will be familiar to quite a few of you from seeing him on this live stream, and maybe you've seen him on the internet, on Twitter, little videos in other contexts as well. But we'll introduce our special guest in a little while. The first thing I want to say, though, watching the intro there's the digitized flags, which are obviously not real. It's like a software simulation of flags. But the flags are exactly the same as the real flags that we've now had made. I don't know how many we've got. It's 200 or 400 or something. But we've got a huge stock of the family party flags now. They're pretty large and they're going to look great. We've been using the pro-life flags already. So we've now got family party flags. So we'll be looking at ways we can employ those to make an impact at various times and places. And they'll be making their debut at our conference on Saturday, actually. One of the things we'll be doing at the conference is gathering in areas around tables with the branch chairman, and they'll say, right, what are we going to do in our area? And if they choose to get some flags or placards or leaflets or whatever, various campaigning materials, whatever they choose, then we'll provide the materials so the branches can get going. Right, let's just go over to the comments. Right, hello, Brian. Right, we'll hear more from you later on, I'm sure. So the conference, as we'll just talk about that briefly before we start. So since we're talking about the conference, we have on at the moment our conference supremo, events genius Neil Deepnarain. So are we all set for Saturday?
Yeah, all set, Richard. I'm really looking forward to it. And yes, people just need to buy their tickets. We're going to have a great day. We got until Thursday that tickets are on sale till. And we also have our after dinner after the conference at an amazing hotel, which I hear some really fun planned activities that's going to be taking place. So looking forward to, the different things. And we just want people to come and join us and hear more about the party.
Yep. The meal last year, we're going to the same hotel as last year. The meal was absolutely brilliant. It was excellent food. It was good fun as well. Last year, I did a magic show that didn't go entirely to plan, but I'm not doing that this year. The entertainment's all completely different.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. We're having a quiz of some sort at the dinner. The conference itself, it's the same venue as last year, so sitting round tables, cabaret style, I believe they call it. So there's a bit of discussion, policy discussion, and we've got various speakers on all sorts of topics. Probably the main speaker in the morning is Paul Gilfillan, who's a sociologist, Queen Margaret University. He's been in Hungary for quite a while recently, studying at an institution there, a sort of think tank. He's got some tales to tell, and he spoke at our conference in 2019. Absolutely brilliant. People have been begging for him to come back ever since. So that we've got Paul back. So we're looking forward to that, and lots of other speakers as well who will be fantastic to say. But it's not all listening to speakers. There's also some activity around the tables as well. So right, let's get the link.
So we'll be at the Vine Conference Center in Dunfermline. We're going to open doors from 9:15, so people are welcome to come from then for coffees and teas. And also, it's a great opportunity to meet like-minded people and, to discuss all that's going on right now here in our nation, Scotland, and to see the change that we can make together. So, really looking forward to this. And we're also going to be welcoming somebody new on the day that's joined the family party. So looking forward to that, and for everyone to get to meet him. Some people will actually know who he is.
Right, yep. I've just put the link on Facebook and YouTube.
Great. Sign up, everyone.
Charles, the magic show is fine.
Yeah, that's what Charles will say. Yeah, Charles. How much did Richard pay you, Charles? That's the question.
That's probably the highest compliment it could be paid. I can't remember what went wrong in it, but something went wrong in any case. It didn't quite go to plan. So I'm having a year off from Magic this time. Maybe next year I could do that. Right, so I would imagine by now, all of you, if you're not booked into the conference, you've already booked your tickets by now in these few minutes. So we'll maybe give that another plug at the end.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks very much, Neil. And see you on Saturday along with everyone else.
Yeah. See you in a bit.
Bye. Right, it's time for our special guest this evening is Niall Fraser. Niall,
nice to see everyone, yes.
How should I describe you? I should describe you as a passionate speaker and Twitter and YouTube video genius.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as genius. No, I think I would describe myself as a sort of like Scotland's antibody. You know, when something attacking Scotland, I just come out at the ready. That's how I would describe myself. A social media commentator. Generally, I'll show up at places, make a proclamation, and then just jump into just leave it alone, let the dust settle, and then I'll say something slightly more controversial, and then more people pick it up. Most recently, I was with yourself at the Sandyford Clinic, or outside Education Scotland building, talking about the Sandyford Clinic and the gender issues facing our country. It's despairing. Richard is the word.
Yeah. Well, sorry, go on.
On you go.
So, what's your record number of views on a video that you've made?
I think we managed 100,000 in one single day. I think it was like an 8-hour session. My phone was on fire. That was the one where we set a biology book on fire. It's really personal to me, this video, because it's legitimately my old biology book. And I think we're going down such a dark path in Scotland that someone needed to make the show of like just visualizing what the SNP and this transhumanist gender ideology is actually doing to people. And it's just ruining science. Well, it's not ruining science, it's just totally nullifying science. And we can't allow that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I've got a list of lots of things to talk about. We've got one main thing. Well, maybe someone's just mentioned here. Someone's saying, I'm North Lanarkshire. You're in North Lanarkshire, I assume. Now, you'll have seen that in the title. Now, the reason I just put that on was at the last council election in May, the SNP councillor who was elected and became the leader of the council has subsequently had to stand down after allegations of inappropriate behaviour with young people, very young people, around the children's, was it youth parliament? Parliament, I think. So he was involved in the youth parliament and, well, didn't behave as he should have done. I don't need to go into the details. And then lo and behold, this week, another SNP councillor from North Lanarkshire, I think this one's actually been prosecuted for similar things. So that's two SNP councillors for the same council. And I remember when I made one of the videos, I tried to find this, but I couldn't find it. There was an audio clip of an ex-SNP councillor in North Lanarkshire, and he was saying, well, this bit's come out, but this is the tip of the iceberg. You should see what's going on underground. There's far, far more to come here. And he was right. He was right. What's going on? How does it happen?
I've said many times before, Richard, or maybe not many times, but you make the judgment, is it the SNP that are creating these people, or is it these people who are magnetised and attracted towards the SNP? You know, is it their policies that attracts them there? Is it just they feel like it's a safe haven? I don't know, but we've obviously got a big problem with sexual deviance within the SNP party, and it's so raw that, just like you said, just last council election, this guy was elected over, I'm sure, a few of your own candidates. So we really need to be taking a magnifying glass to each individual candidate, even if it is the local janitor, the local librarian, any position that requires an election, we need to scrutinise every individual. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
I think there's a significant group within the SNP. I'm not saying it's a majority or anything like that, but there's a significant group who've got some very disturbing values, I think. We see it coming out in this. And the other overlap, there's someone who helps the family party with research, and he goes away and follows up people's social media friends and sees that. And there's a big overlap between some people with some very dubious values when it comes to gender and sexuality, shall we say. And also often that in one form or another, they're into like sort of Satanism, occultism. this sort of thing. I don't know if that's like skin deep, it's just like a fashion, or if there's more to it. It often seems like there's more to it than that. And I just mentioned to that because there was a report in the newspapers this week, I think it was Dundee Court. There's a trial going on into a sort of Satanist child abuse ring.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think the general perception in the public is that these sort of things were in the news in the, I don't know, in the 80s or 90s, but it was a big scare and we realized it wasn't really real. But there's one in court at the moment in Scotland, and it most definitely is real. And I would have thought it would get more attention than it's getting. I mean, that should be a really high profile news story, shouldn't it?
Absolutely, it should be. I mean, surely that'd be not just local news in Scotland, that would be world news, right? You would think. There was another story that caught my eye this week, and no one's talking about it. There was an underground Chinese police station operating under the streets of Glasgow, guys. I think we've totally lost the plot in this country. We don't know what's happening. Do the police know about that jail or prison, secret Chinese jail? Were they allowing it to operate? I just don't understand what's going on. It really is alarming that we've got these demonic, satanic, issues in Dundee, and we've got secret jails in Glasgow. What else is yet to be uncovered? I don't think we want to know, but we have to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. I feel with China, they gave us a couple of pandas. I think that gives you a free pass for the next 50 years, I think. The other thing I think with China is I think there's quite a lot of Chinese people around in Scotland. So I think there's maybe the feeling that if you criticize China, you might be being a bit racist or being a bit hostile or unwelcoming to Chinese people, which is, of course, not true at all. But I think maybe there's that sort of dynamics which makes people reluctant to really criticize China in the way it deserves over a lot of issues.
Well, if I'm criticizing China, I'm not criticizing everyday Chinaman or China woman. It's not. I'm criticizing the government, the CCP, and their ideology. I'm not laying that at the feet of every Chinese person I pass in the street. Absolutely not. And to think that that would be the go-to sort of argument we're just being racist is just it's just a way to shut down argument these days. It's just to claim racism, move on. But we need to get to the root of these issues without fear of saying the wrong thing. And I think that the days of political correctness are coming to an end, thankfully, and hopefully we can you and your party can usher in this new era of free speech.
Just need to clarify this one with Brenda. That's not actually true, I have to say. I'm not the secretary. I'll just tell you a story, though, on that basis. The school where I used to teach, there were two twins joined the school one year, and their surname was Cumming. So someone took a register. But the person who took the register, actually, it was Frank Haddon, who was the Scotland rugby coach. He was taking the register for a session, and he went through all the names. At the end, he said, "Have I missed anyone?" Boy put his hand up. Like, "Yes, sir, you missed me. I'm the second coming." You need to go and see the chaplain.
I think you should do a comedy show instead of a magic show the next time, Richard.
That's my whole repertoire there.
Brilliant.
Now we've got a classic thing to talk about, Niall and I here. This is a report I just saw this afternoon. It's absolutely unbelievable. So the headline is Glasgow set to become the UK's first feminist city. So on October the 27th, Glasgow City Council voted unanimously, so in other words, translation, including the Conservatives. Maybe they might have abstained, but in any case, no, they didn't vote against it. Backed a motion stating that women should be at the heart of all aspects of city planning, becoming the first city in the UK to embrace feminist urbanism. This is serious. Right. Feminist urbanism advocates for a type of urban planning that promotes inclusivity and puts the needs of women, non-binary and gender fluid people at the forefront of the way we think of the urban landscape, because perhaps unsurprisingly, our cities are far from being gender neutral. So what features would you like on the streets of Glasgow to make them more inclusive of gender fluid people?
Oh, well, at the risk of making a really sexist joke, we might have to make the lanes on the road a bit wider to accommodate all the female drivers. But I don't know what they're even what could be even construed as a gender neutral sort of installation. I don't know. How are we going to make the streets more feminist? It's just that it's farcical in the extreme, Richard. It really is. When I read the article, the bit that stood out against me, or it made me laugh rather, it was urban urban feminist planners, their scholars argue, feminist urbanist scholars. What is this? It's all hogwash. It's all ridiculous. And Nicola Sturgeon keeps painting this, what is this gender neutral plan? What is this? Is it more transgenderism, obviously?
Let's read on. The cities we inhabit and the spaces within them are experienced in different ways by all of us, with factors like gender identity, background, ethnicity, and age playing an important role in the way we move across the urban landscape. A straight white man, a gay black teen, or a middle-class 80-year-old woman with a disability will all experience the city in different ways.
It's just sickening to hear you say that. Absolutely sickening.
I mean, I'm a white, English immigrant, if you like. So I must experience the streets one way, and Niall, you must experience them in a different way.
Completely different way, absolutely. I mean, we must be walking down completely different streets, Richard. It's insane that. Well, one, it's obviously it looks to me like a route to the labels. A straight white male, a black gay teen. All these labels. We're just human beings, guys. We all experience the same things. So if we can get away from the labels, we can get away from all this niche boutique installations for each individual identity. We need to come closer back to just we're all human beings rather than I'm this, that, and other. And stop, don't label
what you want in the streets? You want maybe a chair here and there to have a sit down, and you want it be clean. I think everyone would like it to be clean. I think that would be
well, that's the main thing. If it was clean, we'd maybe not have the need for all these gender neutral installations. I'm still puzzled as to how they're going to. I mean, what is the actual plan? Is there more in this?
We'll get to that in a minute. I asked my wife about it. She said what it will mean is they'll put a load of posters up. This is probably about right. Let's read on though. And don't forget, as I'm reading this, Conservatives, we're assuming they voted for it. They certainly didn't vote against it. So, right. So Glasgow Council notes a gender-neutral approach to city development does not work. So all the cities that have ever been built through the whole of human history, it hasn't worked because they haven't been feminist planned. Because people have marginalized genders and diverse needs that are not currently reflected in practice, and that an intersectional, inclusive, and climate-friendly approach is needed, said Glasgow Green Councillor Holly Bruce, who pushed forward the groundbreaking motion in the Scottish city. I mean, the Greens, that's Scottish politics for you. Said the Greens lead the way, and the others trot on behind. That maybe they don't quite keep up, but they do their best to keep up. And this report, it's all that straight-faced, as if this is just perfectly normal, good thing to do. No suggestion this might be controversial in any way. I mean, it's fundamental that women are central to all aspects of planning, public realm design, policy development, and budget. All right, this is the important bit. What does a feminist city look like? So, a feminist city is one in which the needs of all people living in it are met. Well, that just sounds like any old city to me. Not only those of white, cis, able-bodied men. So every city
why is it white, right? So why is white included in that?
Well,
I
obviously,
bet
when
you
you're
can't
putting
find any
lampposts in
reason
and park
whatsoever.
benches,
If it's gender neutrality, it's got nothing to do with race, and yet it's crowbarred in there.
yeah. In concrete terms, that means building a city where everyone's included, but not limited to women, feels equally safe and empowered, and where every group has the same access to services. I mean, it's just too bizarre. Right, according to Holly's motion, the main features of the gender equal city include walkability, proximity to services, safe public spaces, and open green spaces. Right? Do men not want open green spaces? Now I can imagine, okay, that there might be a point to be made that women feel a bit more vulnerable walking around at night. So, fair, fine. But do bear in mind, of course, there are more violent attacks against men than women. But yeah, I can understand that for women. They might be worried. And so if a town planner wants to say, okay, let's just bear in mind, women might be uncomfortable walking through this park, so let's put some extra lights in and this, that, or let's put the path closer to the road. Fine. But you have to declare the whole thing a feminist city to do that. No.
It goes back for me as well. I mean, where's all the money coming to pay for all this? Well, just, demolish all the buildings and rebuild in the gender neutral way. And yet we've not got money to do this, that, or the other. We've not got money to do this, but we've got money to pledge towards climate causes and money to pledge towards gender neutrality causes. It's almost laughing in our face when we've got these tangible problems affecting everyday people's lives, and yet these people are more interested in ideological solutions to a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah, but the way I see it is playtime. I want to say to them, playtime's over. We've run out of money. They're cutting 400 million from the NHS budget, so playtime's over. There isn't money to play. I mean, these should be like ridiculous discussions in some university seminar room. They shouldn't actually escape into the real world and have taxpayers' money spent on them. But as far as they're concerned, playtime's carrying on. Like the reality of the UK, the Scottish, the world situation, just not interested.
No,
not interested. Okay, let's get some more. I could say that I would really like wider pavements and more streetlights. And I'm a white, cis, able-bodied woman, so I don't know what everyone else needs.
Well, I see a person that is describing themselves as a white, cis, able-bodied female is clearly part of the problem.
Yeah.
And obviously they've interviewed someone who's part of the problem to sort of cement their article. It makes no sense. We need to come away from the labels. Like I said, we can't just pocket people and divide them into cis, heterosexual, homosexual, pansexual, sapio, whatever it is, and then divide them even further. We're just human beings, folks. Every discussion about the label really does irritate me, actually. It's a division tactic.
It's a power struggle mentality.
Yeah.
We as women, we're in a power struggle against men. Men have got the power, so they must have designed the city to suit men. So we need to strike back and fight against it. So we exert our authority, get the city designed to suit us. So the battle's on. But it's a non-existent battle. No man has ever said, let's design the city to suit us. Stuff those women.
And even if they did that, Richard, even if they were a group of men sat around the table saying, we are going to design this city with male interest at heart, no females' interest will be taken here. And what would they do exactly in order to accomplish that? It makes no sense.
No. There's one thing it says here about provision for parents with prams. I mean, how sexist can you get? I mean, if I said something where I assumed if I said, it's mums with pushchairs we need to make space for, it says not just mums. You can't say it's mums. That's sexist. Yeah. Mums and dads have pushchairs. But they say making space for prams is part of the feminist, the feminist plan. I mean, in my pram pushing days, I mean, when there's provision for prams and wheelchairs, it's very helpful. I quite appreciated that. But why that has to be part of a feminist city? But the last thing I'll say about this, what makes Glasgow a feminist city. Another way that feminism's hit Glasgow is that Glasgow lost over 1/3 of its annual budget a couple of years ago to the equal pay claim. So it lost about the amount of its entire education budget in one go. So they've had to sell lots of leisure facilities. They've had to sell museum buildings. So that's one of the reasons why Glasgow council finances are an absolute mess. And just a quick recap on the story. Years ago, some women went along to Glasgow Council and thought, I'd like a job. And they looked at all the jobs available. And they could have been a grave digger, got paid a bit more money, but it's cold and wet. Or you could be, say, a school cleaner. Don't get paid quite as much money, but you're in the dry and maybe a bit more comfortable in the winter. And generally, the women chose to be the school cleaners, and generally the men chose to be the grave diggers, for example. Then they do the job for 30 or 40 years, and then say they've been discriminated against because they didn't get paid as much as the people who did the job that they chose not to do. And then Glasgow City Council say it had to pay out over £500 million, which is more than 1/3 of its annual budget a few years ago. So its finances are an absolute mess. But does reality bite? Is playtime over? No, they're still playing at this. Couldn't believe it. Right,
it's always playtime at Glasgow City Council, it seems, Richard. It's always playtime.
Yep. Right, we've got a comment here. The pavements are sexist. You can't walk with small feet and high heels, and I'm a man. Okay. Thanks for that perspective. Be helpful to know what more about your sort of race and other things as well, for us to really be able to position that comment.
Well, I mean, there is a lurch towards labelling everyone, and you'll see it yourself. You'll see it over the last 3 years, and you maybe even found yourself doing it yourself. In which case, try and pull yourself back. Don't label yourself like that, and don't allow other people to label you like that either. More to the point. Yeah.
I think that the big picture of this power struggle mentality, I suppose you could summarize it as society is so bad because there's some people in power and they're oppressing the rest of us. So we need to rise up and it's basically called a revolution, ultimately, isn't it? Or more and more government intervention. The other thing is, instead of thinking, we're British or we're Scottish or whatever, so that's our loyalty on the world stage. Instead of that, it becomes like international. We're the united oppressed women of the world. Again, so extreme left-wing politics tends to be very internationalist. So that's what's happening there. Ian, our protest's been organised for outside Sandyford Clinic. We need to do that, don't we? Yeah, we're going to get there soon.
It has to be done, Richard. Every child who walks through the door of the Sandyford in order to get hormones or surgery is a child failed. Every single one that goes through the door from now onward, it's a child failed. And we really need to have a national discussion on this, because I think it's all intertwined in the digitization and screens, and we've seen that accelerate through the COVID years, where people, kids have been schooled through their screen, and it's causing these mental issues that previously were unaware of. With the advent of social media and YouTubes and TikToks, it's doing something in our brains that we don't know yet, especially children. I think children should be shielded for that as much as possible, but I think it's definitely got a part to play in this gender stuff, if not at the vehicle for where these ideas are creeping into the children's psyche,
Yeah. I mean, the stuff on TikTok in particular, there's just constant glorification of gender change. Now, it's almost, you're a bit boring, a bit vanilla if you just, cisgendered, but it's really exciting and everyone will be cheering you on. if you go down a different route.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, there is, they say there's no magic bullet for a kid who undergoing gender dysphoria or feeling complex emotions like that. The magic bullet is someone who's went through that. It's the people who are coming out the other side and they're detransitioners. That's the magic bullet. One conversation with this, and they won't do what they're going to do. They won't take the path that this person's already embarked upon and come back and say, no, I didn't go down there. So we've already got the magic bullet. We just need to connect these people who are detransitioned to the ones who are troubled at the moment. And
people whose stories even, when I was your age, that's the way I felt, but it went away and I was fine. I've heard people, sort of older teenagers, say, I'm really glad this wasn't around when I was in primary school or whatever, because I might well have thought, oh, that's me. And that's just a few years ago. Anyway, a little light interlude. Favorite biscuit?
Favorite biscuit, Jammy Dodger, hands down.
Oh, it's not really sophisticated, really, is it?
Oh no, I'm not into the sophisticated biscuits. It's just Jammy Dodgers and McVitie's milk chocolates. That's the favourite.
Chocolate digestives are good.
Yeah,
those two I like. Lotus biscuits. Quite like those.
Lotus biscuits, is that the ones?
The ones you get with coffee and
quite like those.
Caramelly flavour things.
Yeah, nice.
Quite into those. We've probably dealt with that issue. Right, something else. I've been very disciplined these days and actually talking about the things in the title, and we're doing pretty well here. 2 to go. Right, Klinefelter syndrome. Have you heard of that? Are you familiar with that?
Yes. So I think this is a medical anomaly where either you've got 2 sets of XY chromosomes, or you've got there's a genetic malformation. So you end up with both sets of sexual organs, I believe. Is that right?
It's basically XXY genes.
You've got 3.
So it's a slight difference. It would normally be XY for a male. But boys, men with Klinefelters, I mean, there's nothing intersex about them. I mean, it does have some slight differences on their physiology, but there's nothing ambiguous about their sex at all. I mean, they're boys, they're men. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I've taught 2 boys, I think, with this condition in a boys' school, and there was never even the suggestion of any remote consideration that there might be something intersex, something other than boys. What's tending to happen now is the transgender activists are claiming them as intersex people and then using them to boost their statistics. So I don't know if you've heard the one, there's as many intersex people as ginger-haired people. Have you heard that one?
No, I've not heard that, but I don't like where you're going.
it's quite a common claim. So the idea is you see these people are everywhere. But they lump in people with Klinefelter syndrome, which is not an intersex condition at all. And there's someone on Twitter I started following. He's just popped up on Twitter. And there's someone who's got this condition, a young man who's got this condition. And he's saying, I'm just so fed up of my condition being used by transgender activists to try and make their point. I'm really fed up with it. And I'm now going to just strike back constantly on Twitter.
Oh, well done that, man.
Yeah, well done him.
So, I mean, he's saying no to his syndrome medical issue being merchandised for someone else's cause. This there is no mantle they won't take up in their pursuit for this gender neutrality stuff. There's none.
So that's great. That's what you need, isn't it? You need someone like that to be speaking out about it, to try and nail that down.
Likewise, it's like I said about the detransitioners. It's the people who have went through this, the people who are currently coming at the other end saying, "Don't go down there." It's the people we need to connect to, the gender dysphoric teens we've got to know, and likewise, the issue with Klinefelters. I think that's another thing caught up in the drama of this gender theory stuff. Once a scientific term, now likely it's just going to be lumped into intersex, isn't it? We could see the end of Klinefelters. Just call it something else.
Yeah. And what they would like to do, they would like to go to a boy with Klinefelter syndrome. They would like to say to him, "Oh, you're intersex, by the way. What would you like to be, a boy or a girl?" And for that boy, that would be quite traumatizing, totally unnecessary. Basically, it's basically telling boys as they're growing up, "You're not a boy. You're some sort of hybrid." And these are boys that would never have entered their head on their own. But the transgender activists are telling them that. Not because they wanted to help those boys, because they wanted to, get some better figures to make their own arguments.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's just it does make me sick. It's sickening to take advantage of someone like that. It really is. But we see it doing, it's wholesale taking advantage of whole groups of people. So it's shocking, but at the same time, it's not shocking because we've been in the trenches for a long time, Richard. And we know what they're like. Yeah.
Right. I'll just put on the conference ticket link for those of you who weren't in the at the beginning. So do get your conference tickets there. It's on Saturday, so just a couple of days left to book.
I think I'm going to buy a few tickets as well, Richard.
That'd be good. Now, what else? Now I've got to get the last thing in the title: excess deaths. I don't know if you've been following this story particularly. Have you been following that?
I've been following the story for years. Although the excess deaths haven't been appearing for years, but I've been, of course, following the vaccine injuries for years. The excess deaths, it's not pinned to the vaccine injuries yet, but I mean it's so obvious that these vaccines are causing excess deaths, and I'll take that upon myself and say that. But the rise in excess deaths, I mean, it's all come off the back of the vaccine rollout, and it's all come out. It's being secretly held back. I mean, we've seen people over the course of like a year, like parse out wee bits of information here and there, but we've not seen anything concrete. The most alarming thing about the excess deaths is the fact that the government aren't saying, "Whoa, stop, guys. We've got an alarming amount of excess deaths.
Yeah,
we need to stop. We need to pause. We need to work out why this is happening, and we need. It's imperative. We need to stop this happening and prevent as many deaths as possible. If it is vaccine damage, because there's so many people taking it. If it isn't vaccine damage that's causing these excess deaths, and we still need to find out what it is. We need a full government pause, and we need a full investigation as to what's causing this. It's my heavy suspicion that it's the vaccines. I haven't taken the vaccine because I thought it may cause harm, and I told everyone that I know and love not to take it. Some took my advice, some didn't. So it's been a long time coming for me that we've finally got sort of concrete information of all these excess deaths. But between you and me, Richard, I didn't want to be correct. I do not want to be right about these vaccines. I don't. If it's the vaccines causing these excess deaths, then God help us. Really, God help us, because they were marketed, they were pushed. Nicola Sturgeon herself said you were irresponsible not to take it. Irresponsible. We were blackmailed into going abroad. You know, it was, if you visited your gran, you were hailed a murderer almost. There's so many oppressive, coercive techniques in order to take this vaccine that I immediately, intuitively wanted to stay back and at least see the first couple of years information come out regarding the vaccines.
I mean, my take was the vaccines were done more quickly than usual. There's always a risk with the medical treatment. So I took the first two. I was quite happy with that. I was aware that it would be a risk. I took a booster because I had to drive through France on the way to Belgium in the summer. So I ended up taking 3. So for me, like you, I mean, these excess deaths are a fact. There's some research that seems to be indicating that it's not actually the after effects of COVID that are causing some of these problems that are coming out. Because that would be one option. It's actually COVID does something in the longer term that's resulting in additional deaths. It might be to do with vaccines. It might be to do with lockdowns, or it might be something completely different. I mean, who knows what? It could be anything. But it's just strange.
We need to understand why.
Yeah.
We need to get to the root of the issue. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's as though it's become so politicized that you've got a relatively small number of people possibly who are thinking, I really pray that it's the vaccines, because then that'll prove me right. But then you've got a much larger group of people who are thinking, right, we can't possibly admit that we've made a mistake here, so we've got to ignore this. Whereas, as you were saying, as I'm saying, I just want to know.
Yeah.
Because surely it's pretty straightforward to put people in different columns according to, when they had COVID, how severe it was, what vaccines they've taken, various other, and just see, try and work out what's happening. It just seems so strange that it's been ignored.
It's more than strange it's being ignored. It's actually dangerous. I mean, it should be highlighted on every news segment. We had wall-to-wall COVID propaganda for it was non-stop during the lockdowns. So where is the equivalent in all these deaths that are happening? Excess deaths. I mean, we locked in the whole country to prevent death, prevent people dying, guys. And now we've got all these excess deaths. We don't know what to know about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
It's the way. If it was the vaccines, and if it is the vaccines causing these excess deaths, the way the government could regain some credibility would be a full stop. We need to investigate these excess deaths straight away. That would be the way to regain credibility. But they need to do it quite very quickly, because the window's closing. People, most people have anecdotal stories of people taking the vaccine and getting ill. Everyone's got a story like that now, and I think now that the rubber hit the road, we're going to find out that I think it was the vaccines. I hope I'm wrong again. I hope I'm wrong. I've never wanted to be right in this. Never wanted to be right.
Yeah, I was thought with COVID, governments were having to make decisions at the points where their data was quite incomplete, and they were having to balance risks. So it may be, even if they made a decision that with hindsight turned out to have been the wrong decision, I would still be quite sympathetic, particularly in the early days, that they didn't quite know what they were dealing with. So I'd be quite sympathetic. It doesn't mean you made a mistake, the fact that something turns out badly. I mean, the illustration, like if there's a blind bend in the road and someone says, I'm going to drive round on the right, I would say, no, that's really stupid. Drive on the left. And they might say, okay, I'll drive on the left, but then someone comes around on the wrong side of the road and hits them. And if they said, oh, you see, if I'd have driven on the right, I would have been safe. Well, that's true, but it doesn't mean that, that they had the right idea to start with. So I'd be quite sympathetic with governments. Just want openness and trying to find out the truth.
Well, that's the thing, and after all the lockdowns, after all the division, after all the angst, trust levels are at an all-time low in government. So it's one sure way of gaining at least a tiny bit of trust back is to just come clean and stop ignoring all these excess deaths and investigate it thoroughly and publicly.
Yeah. Just one last thing on coronavirus before we move on. The official report by the US government is now saying that they're fairly confident that it was a lab leak in China. Now, that when that first came out, that was regarded as like you could get kicked off YouTube for saying that. You'd be censored on Facebook. Facebook would put one of these covers on that says, this is total nonsense. And yet it goes from that to now being the official position of the US government, that they're scientific advisors.
Which does bizarre. Make sense. I mean, it makes sense. Like you said, the government didn't know what they were dealing with in the beginning. If it's a lab leak, it could be a bioweapon. So we don't know what it is. So they are lies at least an element of sympathy that could be garnered. But once again, it's predicated on if they want to come clean and investigate all these excess deaths. I don't think we'll hear much about it. I hope we do.
No. The lovely thing, so it comes back to what we were saying about China, doesn't it? Because initially, people have said, "Oh, it's China." Maybe some people are wrong. Maybe they did try and sort of blame China in an unfair way. But then you get another group of people who react against that and say, "Oh, it's the nasty people who say it's from a Chinese lab, so we're going to shut them up. That's going to be banned on social media." And it was. I mean, you're risking your account if you said that a year or two ago. But now it's the official view of the US government. So do you think Elon Musk's going to sort this out with Twitter? Are you optimistic?
I mean, I'm optimistic. Elon Musk taking over Twitter is pretty gigantic. First of all, the 2020 election in America could have been salvaged for Trump if it wasn't for Twitter censoring the New York Post. There was an article about Hunter Biden that went out just prior to the 2020 election. It should have went viral, but then was censored. So Twitter has an unbelievable power, unbelievable amount of power. And Elon Musk has just bought it for billions. So it's whether he uses that power for good or for bad, who knows. But it is the town square, like they suggest, I think. I think free speech is here to stay.
I think the question with Twitter is how much freedom does he have? Because so many countries now have got their own laws and regulations you've got to operate within. So in the UK, for example, even if Elon Musk said, I want a bit more freedom, particularly for like socially conservative voices, even if he wanted that, would he run up against like the regulatory bodies against the laws?
I can imagine.
Possible.
But then surely, like for instance, there was an issue with Rumble, which is another video content sort of provider, whereas they dropped their RT News link, or they were threatened by France, the government of France, to drop their RT News, and they said no. So now Rumble is not available in France. So it might just be a case like this where we're all using, VPNs in order to reach sites that we're deemed not allowed to see.
Yeah.
It's hearing opinions and views that are we're not allowed to hear, I suppose.
Yeah. I did an interview on Russia today. It's a while ago now about the primary school in Edinburgh that asked all the boys to wear skirts to school. So I did an interview on Russia today. And the young lady interviewing me, her English, I think she'd learned English in America. So at one point, she was trying to ask me if I thought it was okay for girls to wear pants. They didn't broadcast
it's not going to translate very well.
Just go back to Elon Musk. I caught a bit on Radio 4. They had a panel discussing Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter. And in typical BBC fashion, they had a full spectrum of sort of left-wing, liberal, progressive types who all thought it was absolutely appalling that Elon Musk had bought it and it was just going to be a total disaster. I can't remember how many people, there's 3 or 4, but they were all saying exactly the same thing. This is very concerning. Very concerning.
But why is it concerning to these people?
Well, because they're like a skewed playing field. That's what you used to. If you used to playing downhill on the football pitch, then the idea of a level pitch doesn't sound so good, does it? I mean, it seems a bit unfair. It's not like it used to be. So,
well, it's been spirited. I've enjoyed it. Twitter. Elon Musk has. He might have bitten off more than he can chew, but he is one of the, if not the richest man in the world, I believe. He's still launching rockets into space. He's still making Teslas. He's still doing tunnels. The guy's going to be fine, but now he has a massive megaphone. So we'll see if it has any effects on free speech, especially in this country. It might end up going the way you think, Richard, where the UK government might come to loggerheads with tech company. But that remains to be seen.
There's already advertisers boycotting
I've noticed
Twitter.
that.
I mean, one of them, Volkswagen. I mean, Volkswagen are really, really progressive. I mean, they if I was buying a new car, I would avoid any Volkswagen brand for that reason. That it's really bad. I mean, they fiddled their emissions, so they're basically cheating the system in terms of the pollution the cars were producing. So they weren't too bothered about that. But when it comes to like every progressive ideology going, they're right at the forefront. Remember a few years ago, Audi got into they did an advert about the gender pay gap in America. Do you remember that story?
I remember a funny advert, but I don't think it was Audi. What was? Can you?
Well, the advert was basically, it was nothing to do with cars, but they're basically saying, you know, women need to be paid the same as men. Look at us, we're on your side, women. Buy an Audi. Then someone said to Audi, "How much do men and women get paid in your company?" And the men get paid quite a lot more. And Audi came back and said, "Oh, that's because they do different jobs. You see." That's the situation with all the other companies as well. So, yeah.
Well, I think all these advertisers, it's a coordinated pullout of Twitter. They do not want Elon to succeed. So the likes of Volkswagen, all these companies that are sold on this, is it ESG, you know, social governance, these new fancy company credit scores, where you have to be seen to be pushing gender neutrality and climate change in order to sell your products. And I don't think Elon's really going for it, and they might be pulling out like that. But I'm hoping that his gambit, it seems, is to say, give us $8 a month. It might very well offset all the advertisers pulling out, and it might be the only way to maintain free speech. Actually, it's without the pressure of advertisers there, you know, calling the shots. Yeah,
I mean, if it works really well with people paying $8, what would that be, £6 or whatever, £6 a month, then maybe that'd be great. It wouldn't be everyone would need to pay, would it? It would just be
the blue ticks. That's what he's suggesting, just the blue ticks for people to keep their verification. I mean, on the back of this Twitter buy, we've seen some of the most disgusting stories come out where, just for you, using you as an example, Richard Lucas, you type in, I want to get verified because I'm the leader of a Scottish political party. I'm a notable person and I deserve a verification. Then they say, oh, I'm sorry, you've not met the requirements. And then you get a phone call a couple of hours later for somebody at Twitter offering you to sell you verification for a price. So, I mean, this is happening all over. It's unbelievable, like what's been going on at Twitter.
We applied for a blue tick ages ago, and they just said, we've got too many in the queue. You can't join the queue.
The quickest way, we're hearing stories of people just phoning up Twitter and getting it done immediately. Yeah.
What we always found on Twitter is it's as though we've got a ceiling. So there'll be a number that will just keep bouncing off. Then it seems to be that disappears. And we go forward for a few weeks. Then it hits a new ceiling and just bounces off it again and again and again. So in terms of followers, I think Twitter's been the most suspicious.
Yeah, it really has.
They haven't deleted anything. We've never had this tweet was really bad, we've deleted it. We've never had that. But we just seem to have had a ceiling on that.
I mean, I'm already...
so just say welcome to Klaus. Nice to see you. But
so, I mean, Twitter for me has been a bit of a mixed bag. Like you say, so... during the election campaign last year, my videos were constantly getting flagged as sensitive content.
Right.
Now, some of my videos were not sensitive at all. Some of them were, I'll grant you, quite sensitive content for people. But what I was doing was you couldn't see it. It wasn't appearing on people's feeds. So automatically, anything that's deemed sensitive content is downgraded and it doesn't get seen as much. So as soon as my videos were getting any sort of traction, it's labelled sensitive content and it's dead.
Right.
So that happened with at least 5 or 6 of my videos to the point where I was actually going to have to phone up Twitter and see what was sensitive about it. But you know, you're never going to get through, and you're only going to get a gobbledygook answer, so it doesn't matter. But Twitter's been quite powerful, and like you said, there's been moments where I thought they've allowed my full reach, or they've turned the tap off, or they've turned the limiter off even. One of your tweets or one of your videos goes gangbusters, and you're like, well, why isn't everyone doing this? And obviously, the initial time that Elon was even thinking about buying Twitter, my followers jumped up a couple hundred instantaneously. So there was something wrong with my follower count anyway. I mean, it's Twitter, it's all sort of manufactured, isn't it? So it's like, how manufactured is we're going to find out, I think, with Elon at the helm.
Now on YouTube, I get really frustrated because YouTube puts these like official messages at the bottom of your videos, just to give the real accurate information. I was thinking of doing an experiment. If you make a YouTube video and talk about coronavirus, vaccines, abortion, and climate change, which message does it put underneath, or does it put all four of them to get the whole lot?
It might put all four of them. I'd be up for that experiment. It'll probably just be taken down, Richard.
Maybe we'll break YouTube. We'll break their algorithm. That would be it.
Yeah.
Right. Let's. Our hour has almost gone. It's flown by as I would expect it. It's great to chat.
I've not been looking at much at the comments. Has there been any much? I've been diligently facing the camera, as you can see. Twitter's a cesspit.
Twitter certainly has that element to it.
Yeah. I found the same at times, David. At times it's a cesspit. At times it's okay.
Right. So GB News. I'm not sure what you're laughing at, but you probably heard me speaking about GB News. It's a bit of a frustration with the Scottish Family Party because they import English parties to Scotland, parties that don't exist in Scotland, basically. Yes. And we're in a totally different league from them in Scotland, and they ignore us. We'll forgive them when we're back on a little bit more in the future.
Well, the thing is, they won't be ignoring the Family Party for long, I don't think, because as one thing that you've got, the biggest arrow in your quiver, the Scottish Family Party is, as the attack on family and family structure intensifies. Now, this is what this gender theory is. It's an attack on family. As it intensifies, more people are going to be drawn to your banner, Richard. That's just, it's just the laws of nature. So, as we see the words like mother and father being excised almost for the vocabulary, that's when people flock to your cause. So then GB News will never be after the phone.
What's the word? The tide's with us at the moment, isn't it? There's lots of developments that are in our favour. Our issues are going up the agenda.
Absolutely.
And I think the other parties, in all cases, they can't meet them because they're trying to reach too big a portion of the electorate. So they struggle to respond to it, and just the people in them don't really get the issues either. So I think, more so than ever in the history of the Family Party, I feel like things are coming our way in terms of the international agenda and the national agenda.
I think you're absolutely right. That's probably a good point to end, I suppose. If we're near there.
Let's surprise Neil by bringing him out. I thought we might have caught him having a nap or something. So Neil, what are we going to remind people?
That our conference is taking place this Saturday, the 12th of November, in Dunfermline, the Vine Conference Centre. Our theme this year is protecting children, protecting childhood. What an important theme to have. So we want everyone to come and be part of our conference. So get your tickets. Ticket sales closes on Thursday. So you need to get your tickets tonight and tomorrow.
It'd be great to see you there. Right, thanks, Neil. Thanks, Niall. It was great to chat. We'll have you back on before too long, I hope. And we need to get along to that Sandyford cleaning it out.
Yeah, we need to chain ourselves to the door, Richard, being you. It's an absolute pleasure being here, and thanks for having me on, guys. It really has been a pleasure, and you keep doing all that great work you do, Richard.
Right, thanks for everyone watching as well. Hope you enjoyed it, and people who watch later as well. But see you next week.
Yeah. Bye.